welcome to another episode of Blam Truckers. I am Beas. I got it right this time.
And I'm Beas. So welcome back, you Blam Truckers, here to Blam Trucker World. Coming to you live from the internets, the interwebs, the information superhighway. For those of you old enough to remember that.
And for those of us too old, the information super slow way, because we always want it faster. Anyways, as we said before, we're testing out a new format, but for those of you who are new, welcome. We are just two friends from college who have remained good friends over the years and decided to do a podcast. We wanted to keep a fairly positive spin on all things of modern geekdom, whether that be video games, books, movies, comics, and we just want to bring our random, hopefully well thought out thoughts to you, our viewers and listeners. And so, I am going to pitch it over to our creative director, Mr. Beas over there.
How you doing? Okay. Turns out our City of Heroes video has gotten more hits out of our old long-form videos than any other video. So, except for, I think, our first one. So I wrote up a couple of topics. We just got a big patch this week. And I figured we'd talk about it a little bit. So a lot of what I focused on in that video was the pay-to-win vendor, P2W vendor. They've actually renamed that to the START vendor. And there's an acronym for START. I don't know what it is, but there's an acronym for START. So nothing actually changed inside the vendor. I think they added in a few more vanity pets. So all our advice is good. Just look for START instead of P2W. Something that did change is to get the long-range teleporter now. You can still buy it in START, but I recommend just flying around to grab the locations because it's cheaper. And if you get all the badges in Atlas, you only need, nowadays, instead of just getting all the badges in one zone, a minimum of 8, that's what it was before this week. Now it's just get 10 badges from anywhere. 10 badges from anywhere. They have to be location badges. So I figured we'd update you on that, or you can just, spend 1 hour in Pocket D. You could always do that to get the long-range teleporter. So that's how you get it now. There's a new badge in Atlas right at Miss Liberty. I forget what it's called, but I got it the other day, and I'm like, hey, they mentioned something about this in the update. There is a new controller and dominator sets called Arsenal. And actually, Beas, I think you would like this quite a bit. Have you looked at this at all? Have you gotten a chance?
Nope.
You could go to the character select screen and make new character, make a dominator, and show the people what we're talking about.
Oh, I just got a new exploration badge. Right by Miss Liberty.
Called?
I wasn't looking. Oh, rookie. Oh, wait, no, maybe that's not it. Well, it said exploration badge, though, so maybe it was.
So anyway...
You're the smart one. All right.
I'm the one who was playing right before this. I was running a farm over on Reunion. So, Arsenal and Old Lace. Let me bring up my game client, which you guys won't be able to see. You'll just see my ear facing the camera. So
why can't we see yours?
Because
I'm sorry.
My camera's not facing my screen?
My camera's not facing my screen.
Yeah, well, you're the tech genius. So Arsenal Control, it's a pretty standard tech set. Not tech. It's a pretty good control set. Pretty standard. It's got a few differences. One, there's no immobilization in the set, which is kind of cool. They rely on sleep instead, which is... I don't know if you've used sleep in City of Heroes, but it's not nearly as good as it was in EverQuest, which is what they based the game off of. In EverQuest, it was about taking an entire group, so you get 6 people together, and you'd face one mob at a time, and the enchanter or bard would keep the other mobs asleep during that time period. We called it Mezzed, because the main spell we used for that was mesmerization, or some mesmerization. There was variations on that. So you would keep all of the other mobs asleep, and we'd focus on one bad guy and take him down. That's how EverQuest worked. And there are elements of EverQuest still in City of Heroes. City of Heroes doesn't work that way. This game allows Zerg rushing more than any other game I've ever played, including WoW, if you build your character right. And we can talk about builds a bit, maybe in the next video. But it's not, in City of Heroes, if you've got a solid tank that can take 1,000,000 hits, or a controller that can do a lot of AoE controlling, you can keep all the mobs down. You don't need to worry about facing just one mob at a time, which is true also in WoW to a lesser degree. In City of Heroes, you can Zerg rush into a group of like 16 mobs easy. The tank can hold up to 16. No problem. Nobody else will even take a hit directed at them. We'll even have a hit directed at them. Still got to worry about AoE. So there's Zerg rushing, and it's just much like Dungeons and Dragons. The game it has become is not the game it was built to be. Once you release a game to the players, they turn it into what they're going to play it in ways you never imagined, no matter how much you play test it. So yeah, City of Heroes is the sleep is not very useful there, but that's only 2 of the powers, because Immobilize, by the way, or Root, is also not very useful in City of Heroes. It's somewhat useful, especially if you're soloing, and Sleep is very useful when you're soloing. But I would skip those powers myself. The only good sleep I've ever seen was in the electrical power set, which Electric Control, which has a place-based AoE location. You click on the location, and it just stays there and continually puts all the mobs in the area asleep. So you hit them, and in a couple of seconds, they go back to sleep. It works very effectively as a hold of sorts, and it also drains their endurance. So if you're working an endurance drain build, you can stop them from doing anything. That's a key ability for stopping them from doing anything. It's one of the reasons why Electric Control is one of my favorite of the control sets. And so yeah, let me just run through Arsenal Control, and let me double check and see how much time we're 7 minutes and 41 seconds in. So
don't worry about it too much.
I'm not worried about it too much. I just don't want to go way over. So for first power, I would take the Cryo Freeze Ray. One of the nice things about Arsenal is they use all different kinds of damage types for attack. So your bad guy has to be able to resist all different types of damage. That's a pretty big advantage if somebody is very resistant to one or another. You can swap. That's what I like about Water for blasters. Also Pistol for blasters and defenders and some of the other sets. Only the newer sets, really. You have different attack types, which is neat. So then the next ability I would be interested in would be Liquid Nitrogen, which puts down a sheet. Again, it's location-based, and it puts down a sheet of knockdown. And it's just like they basically took powers from other sets and put them together in a new, exciting way. This is from the Cold set. In Cold, I'll bring up Ice Control here. Ice Control, it was called Ice Slick. But here it's called Liquid Nitrogen. Then you have a cloaking device, which honestly isn't that great. I can see you skipping this power if you don't want to be invisible at all, but it's a very nice invisibility. It's nothing to write home about, nothing bad about it. Depends on what your playstyle is. Remember, in City of Heroes, the builds can be so much different and so much more precise than any other MMO I've ever played. In most MMOs, whatever class you build, whatever class you pick is it limits you to that class. Not in City of Heroes, that's just where the game starts. Star Trek Online is probably the second most versatile game I've ever played, but it's still not that versatile, not compared to City of Heroes. The next ability is Smoke Canister, which is a AoE Confuse. This puts it into a category with a Mass Confuse, and there's only a couple of... and Confuse, by the way, turns your enemies against each other. So you don't have to fight them, they fight each other. and they'll keep fighting each other even if you're doing damage to them, which is very nice. So Smoke Canister puts it in the same category as plant control, electric control, and mine control. So Arsenal is the only other control set that allows people to do mass confuse, which is pretty cool. Something to keep in mind if that's your playstyle. Then you get Flashbang, which is an AoE stun, and Tear Gas, which is an AoE hold, and your pet is the Tri-Cannon, which is kind of like the Blaster's Devices Cannon or the Trap's Devices Cannon. It follows you around and does range damage. But the other ones are fairly standard. Tear Gas is PB AoE instead of, it's place-based, it's location, instead of just targeted AoE. But this actually gives it, with liquid nitrogen, smoke canister, flashbang, and tear gas, you get 4 really solid AoE control abilities that are all ranged. That is, I think electric is the only one that can top that. Let's double check electric. So jolting chain doesn't count, but static field to sleep, paralyzing blast, and synaptic overload. Nope. Only 3. Let's check out Earth. They've got, let's see. I don't know if quicksand should count. That's just an AoE slow. But salt crystals, stalagmites, earthquake, and volcanic gases. Yeah, it ties with the best of them. So Arsenal Control is a very solid control set. I'm on the Dominator, so we'll pop over to secondary powers, and I'm not sure what Beas is doing over there.
Following along with you.
There we go. So Arsenal Assault is, what they're really just doing is they're finally bringing Assault Rifle to the Dominator class. They just hasn't had an Assault Rifle build yet. Yeah, they added a few things, but it's mostly borrowing from Assault Rifle. They do have Trip Mine in here, which is a really nice power if you're soloing. It's kind of useful in groups, but you got to actually be planning out what you're doing. You're not going to be Zerg rushing if you're using Trip Mine, unless you're defending yourself. Yeah. Not a lot to say about this. There's an okay amount of range, an okay amount of melee. There's 2 melee attacks, two melee attacks that I see offhand. Yeah, pretty standard. Nothing really jumping out at me here for amazement for a... you do have a toggle for targeting drone instead of just a build-up power. That's different. And Ignite, your final power, is a ranged AoE. It's not a very particularly long range, if I remember correctly. 60 feet, that's not bad. It's single target, but anybody nearby will also get splashback. They'll take less damage over time. The main target will take the most amount of damage over time. So yeah, those are the big changes coming through. And then there was a bunch of quests added, which I haven't run yet, so I can't give you a first-hand account of them. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the new patch. Anything you want to add, Beas?
I haven't had a chance to play around with it, so not so much. It looks cool.
I think you would really enjoy the theme of Arsenal Control. Have you ever played a controller?
No. This is Dominator, though, isn't it?
Yeah, so the Dominator and the controller main set there for Assault are the same.
Oh, okay.
And they're both control classes. Dominator is about doing damage, controller is about not only controlling, but also supporting.
Gotcha.
Right. What do you want to build is the question. Like Dominators, a lot of the Dominators I've seen tend to be illusion Dominators for the 5 pets. 4 pets? I forget. It has one of the highest pet numbers for a controller build. And 3 of them are indestructible, but they can't really do any damage. But they taunt, which is an interesting way to create a control power. You just distract the bad guy. or the mob, however you want to put it. I keep telling you guys, this game is not like... It's a lot like every other MMO you've ever played, and it's not like any MMO you've ever played. The options here are just more plentiful. It's a lot of fun. I highly recommend it. I'm playing on Reunion myself right now. Yeah, so that covers the new patch, everything that's going to affect new players. I don't know if I covered this in the long form video we did, but you can swapping sides from hero to villain or vigilante or rogue. It's very easy to do. You go to Pocket D, which you can get to from both of the starting zones. Not the tutorial, but the actual starting zone, Mercy Island or Atlas Park. And you can just walk up to the back of the truck and jump in and go to the rave zone of Pocket D. And it's in Pocket D that you meet up with Null the Gull. I'm not even kidding. Null the Gull. It is a seagull sitting on top of a van, a box truck, I guess. A seagull sitting on top of a box truck named Null the Gull. And you click on him and talk to him. And one thing you can do there, besides change your alignment, is to change how you accept Mystic Fortune. I like to put that to always accept Mystic Fortune without accepting prompts. Highly recommended. Just makes your life... It's one less thing to click on in the middle of combat when people are buffing you with Mystic Fortune. But yeah, Null the Gull. You go there and you can change your... It's this quick. You go to what can you do, and one of the options is change my alignment, and you go to change my alignment, and you just click on which alignment you want. So if you start off as a villain, all it takes is a trip to Pocket D and to see Null the Gull, and boom, you can be a hero, a vigilante, a rogue. Doesn't matter, and vice versa. You can only start as a hero or a villain. You can't start or technically you can start as a Praetorian up to level 20. But once you get past that, you can only be a hero, a vigilante, a rogue, or a villain. And heroes and villains can't go to each other's zones, but vigilantes can go to villain zones, even though they can accept hero missions. And rogues can accept villain missions and go to hero zones. I highly recommend playing as a vigilante or a rogue, for the most part.
Are you able to group with heroes then at that point? Or whatever,
a rogue?
if you're going to those zones? Yeah,
A rogue, yeah. Yes. A rogue can group with heroes, and a vigilante can group with villains.
So even though they can't grab the quests, they can run quests that other people are doing.
So just today, somebody was running a villain strike force. So I popped over, as all of my characters are vigilantes for the most part. Popped over to the zone. You have to be in a villain zone as a vigilante to accept an invite to a group. And same thing with rogues. Rogues have to be in hero zones to accept invites to the group. But yeah, worked out just fine.
Why wouldn't you want to go vigilante or rogue?
Role-playing reasons.
Okay, makes sense.
If you're actually role-playing and you're worried about your character, then if you're a noble hero, then you want to play that. If you're not a noble hero, if you're a vigilante where you're more into getting the job done, then you're worried about, looking good doing it. You play a vigilante. So there is a role-playing aspect to it too, though we're not on a role-playing server, so it doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It's less common.
Yep.
I believe Torchbearer is the role-playing server. I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
If you guys are looking for a role-playing experience.
And role-playing servers are a lot of fun. I did it on WoW for a while.
Yeah. We did it on City of Villains for a while.
Yep.
My first rock tank, but not my last. I had no idea how good Granite Armor was. I got the Prima Strategy Guide when this game first came out.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was wrong?
Just about everything. Yeah. Nice pictures in it, though. I think I still have it here in one of these boxes in my junk room. All right. that should pretty much wrap it up for us. Just an overview of the changes to City of Heroes, City of Villains this week on the... Oh, what is the name of the server? It's not Tequila. Homecoming server. So, the officially licensed City of Heroes. We're back, baby. Got anything you want to add?
I don't think so.
All right.
Thanks again for watching us on this episode. We will have another short episode coming soon for us in about 5 seconds, for you, possibly in a day or two.
If anybody knows David Zaslav or anybody over at the Warner Brothers Studios who are looking for a pitch for a DC movie, I've got a bunch of them. So let us know in the comments down below. And hey, keep trucking out there, you blam truckers.
See you, truckers.
Today we're talking about Avatar. This week, Avatar, the live action Avatar, dropped on Netflix, and I don't currently have Netflix. That's an argument between me and T-Mobile and Netflix, because T-Mobile promised all of the people on my T-Mobile account they'd pay for the Netflix for it, and now Netflix is saying we're not all in the same household. T-Mobile said it doesn't matter whose household you're in. You can put anybody on your T-Mobile friends and family plan. So we're going to find out how that goes. So I don't currently have Netflix. When I do, I'll give it a watch. I was not a big fan of Avatar when it came out because I didn't know about it. When I finally did get around to watching it, many years later, Avatar: The Last Airbender is an amazing cartoon. It's a very well told story. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I couldn't get through Korra. Probably could have if I watched it when it came out, but I can't watch it. I just can't get through it anymore. And I don't really want to spend too much time on why I didn't like that. I want to spend time on what I do like. Avatar was, and I think you will agree with me, we do try and keep it positive here. Kind of giving you guys the geek at home experience that you get when you hang out with your own buddies. That's, what we want this to feel like. Like you're sitting at a table with us while we're gaming and we're talking about all the dumb stuff we love talking about. So, Avatar. I loved how the characters progressed over time. I loved how they, Katara in particular, built up her skill. She didn't start off as amazing. How Aang had to learn all the different things. I love how the story was well crafted. Things would build on each other. You heard about Ba Sing Se a couple of times before you even knew it was the last major bastion of the Earth Kingdom, before you knew it was the capital of the Earth Kingdom. Before the 100-year war with the Fire Nation, there wasn't just one Earth Kingdom, but they don't really talk about that much. You get hints of that through the series, and I don't know if you get it in Korra or not, but the story's incredibly well told, and it's worth watching repeatedly to catch the things you didn't catch before. Beas was just telling me, this is what we actually talked about Avatar after our recording session last week, and that led us to, and it was during that time that Beas told me that the first time you actually see Azula is not in season 2, it's during the flashback to the Agna Kai that Zuko fights with Ozai, his father.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's the first time you see Azula. Incredibly well planned out story. Or at least, if it wasn't all planned out at the beginning, a lot of it was, and then they pieced it together before it was told to us.
It's no Lost.
What?
I said it's no Lost.
I don't get the joke. Sorry.
Oh, you never watched Lost, did you?
Oh, Lost! The TV. I'm sorry. Anyway, so while we were talking last week, did you want to say something?
No.
Oh.
I'm good.
You can interrupt me. It's all right. So when we were talking last week, Beas and I were talking about how we would break this, how we would make Avatar work in a D6 system. Because D6 is my favorite system. I think it's both of our favorite systems, though Beas tends to like other systems a bit more than I do. And I said it'd be really easy. You just have the control for bending would be a martial arts, and then the power would be an attribute. And so I wrote up some quick rules for how we would actually put this together, because the basic rules of D6 fit perfectly for any system with people in it, or aliens, or bipedal humanoids. So, how do you want to do this? Should we just go over it?
Well, yeah, you kind of have designed it, so go over it, and I will insert my 2 cents, which is typically worth 5 on the exchange market. Where
I'm glad you only have
applies.
2 right now. Okay, so will the 6 attributes work, or will we need to change them? Making the fantasy D6 rules, I had to, because I created a D6 fantasy system. I believe we've talked about it in the past. I had to work on skills for mechanical and technical, because the world we live in today has all sorts of things in it, like cell phones and remote controls. That would be wizardry in the Middle Ages. And flash drives. Look, a flash drive. And look at this. Ah, retractable. And on the other side, aha, micro USB, which nobody uses anymore. Anyway, clearly I bought that before Type-C became standard. In medieval Europe, there's not a lot of mechanical things to put skills into. But in Avatar, there is. They've got steam. What did I write here? Avatar: The Last Airbender. We see a variety of devices that would require technical and mechanical skills: blimps, tanks, steam engine-powered ships, etc., etc.
A really big drill.
Yes, a really big drill. You need. They had engineers, and Sokka. One of the things he brings is his engineering skills to Team Avatar.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we've established we don't have to change the 6 main attributes, we look at how do we implement bending. So we sussed out the basics the other night. Like I said, control is determined by their martial arts skill, which, except for Toph and Aang, through most of the series, we see everyone else we see in the series, people are doing specific moves and whatnot, and all sorts of silly things to get their bending proper. And it was the bending that controlled how they manipulated the element. So that would be a martial arts skill, and the amount of material one can bend or power should be an additional attribute. Now, the reason why I say it should be an attribute is this keeps things balanced. I found this out with the magical system. I found this out with the superhero system, because it broke in the superhero system. I found this out running my buddy's Transformer system. You don't want to make the magical power, the bending power, too powerful so that you automatically defeat everybody with bending, because we don't see that in the show. With the best benders in the world, like Aang and Toph and Boomy, yeah, we do see them defeating tons of people on their own. But generally, it's an additional skill. It's not powerful enough to kill somebody most of the time. Now, part of that's because it's a children's show, but in working that into the balance, we want to make it an attribute so that they have to take we keep it balanced for non-bending characters as well. So people like Sokka and Katara's dad, whose name is escaping me right now, he doesn't have any bending power, but he's a very effective warrior. The guy who trained...
Hakona? Sorry, keep going. Never mind.
The guy who trained Sokka, there we go. The guy who trained Sokka in the way of the sword. He's not a bender, but he's a member of the White Lotus.
Piandao. That one okay. I know.
Sokka is not a bender, and yet he's an essential part of the team. If you're taking part of your initial 18 attributes and you're putting it into bending, that means you're taking it from somewhere else. So you're not going to be as good at other things as benders are, as non-benders are, but you're going to be able to bend. So I thought that was a pretty good compromise. It worked out when I built a test character. I ran a few dice rolls to see how things went. Seemed to work out pretty well. So I've got here martial arts bending. So martial arts is generally under dexterity, though an argument can be made for strength as an advanced. It's an advanced skill, so it always starts at 1D, at max 2D at character creation. So we're not talking about Aang here. We're not talking about Toph. We're talking about benders starting out in a role-playing game. Role-playing games want you to start level 1 or whatever. In this case, it's skill, but you start low and you build high.
Mm-hmm.
So the max you can put into bending for your control, for your martial art, is a maximum of 2D. Each one of the bending arts is a different martial art. So you don't just have the martial arts skill and then bending under it. You have martial arts bending water. Hold on 1 minute.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
You could have jumped in there, Beas.
I did. I sang.
I'm just trying to forestall a little bit of the hiccups here. So water bending is the martial art. And then underwater bending, and it's an advanced martial art. It's an advanced skill, so you actually have to train to increase it, just like we see in the show. People generally don't get better just from use. They have to practice, practice, practice. So water bending would be the skill, and then like healing would be one of the specializations under that skill. And then water whip would be one of the moves under that skill, and you have to learn each one of these moves under that skill. What that means is that at character creation, you're going to use 1 to 2 points for water bending. You only get 7. Had to count there for a minute. You get 7 character points. So if you're using 2 of them just to get your bending skill to the highest it can go, then
By
each one of
points,
those.
you mean skill dice, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So in using those 7 skill dice, 2 of them you're going to use for 1 to 2. You're going to use just to get the bending skill to start, and then under that, your specializations, because they're specializations, only cost 1/3 of a die. So if you spend another 2 dice, 2 of your starting dice on specializations, that gives you 6 different skills you can build up. 6 different skills you can build up. And that's only bringing them to 1 additional die above whatever you put your bending skill at. And that's for control. I thought that worked out pretty well when I tested it out. How did that sound to you, Beas?
Sounds good. I'm also assuming... I probably should wait to ask this, but I'm also assuming something like the chi blocking skill like Ty Lee used, that would also be like another advanced skill, something like that.
I would make that a specialization under a different martial art.
Fair enough.
Because other people learn martial arts, obviously. I think an advanced skill is pretty much what Sokka got when he went to go learn from the sword master, whose name was
Piandao.
Piandao. But it's also somebody like Ty Lee is a martial artist, and so she would have that skill as a specialization. I didn't map everything out. I took about an hour and wrote up the rules for character creation for a bender, basically. Covered all that. Advancing your character, you do actually have to practice the skill, and it helps to have a teacher. You need a teacher to learn new skills. Once you learn it, you can just practice those specializations to advance them, but for advanced skills, you need a teacher to learn them. A teacher can be a scroll, a person, or an animal. Air bisons, badger moles, and dragons, if you guys are... It sounds like a bad thing from the Wizard of Oz.
Or a lion turtle.
Or a lion turtle, yes. Air bisons, badger moles, and dragons. Oh my!
And perhaps you learned it in the secret tunnel.
of, what was it? Secret Tunnels of Omashu, or whatever it was. Also, go ahead.
No, nothing. I was like, yeah, I don't remember it as much as I should. I mean, I watched it like only 2 weeks ago, but
So new specializations can be discovered by the Bender. We see Aang doing that with the air scooter in a flashback to his life at the air temple before he found out he was the Avatar. But I would put the difficulty at heroic, or at least a very difficult level. And they'd be casting the advanced skill itself, not one of the specializations, to create a new specialization. Basically, a new form of, not form, a new thing to do in bending. Like, what's his name? Uncle
Iroh?
Iroh. Thank you. Uncle Iroh created the skill of redirecting lightning. So it can be done, but it's not something you're going to start off doing as a, brand new player character. Fair?
Although one has to, yes, although one has to say, Aang was pretty young when he developed it. Before he even knew he was the Avatar, he developed that. I don't know if he would have. I don't know if he would have been capable of rolling a very difficult or heroic roll at that point.
I'm certain he could have. Do you know why?
Why?
Those tattoos he has, the arrow tattoos, airbenders only get them when they reach the rank of master. At 12 years old, Aang was already a master airbender.
Okay. It seemed like all of the other kids were master airbenders too then.
No, go back and watch those scenes again. There's actually a couple of scenes where Aang doesn't have the tattoos yet.
Okay. I will go back and watch it. Oh, darn.
It's a really good series. I even have on here, we would have to come up with a list of skills and requirements, because some of the skills in the bending forms shouldn't be something you can learn without having the prerequisite skills. So the examples I give here, what's the fire bending skill requirement before you can learn lightning bending? And would lightning bending, metal bending, blood bending, would they be specializations, or would they be a separate advanced skill? Separate even from, in fire bending, earth bending, and water bending. Something to think about.
Yeah.
I
mean, I would have to say with lightning, like, I'll give you metal bending and blood bending and such, but lightning bending, it really does feel like it would be a skill underneath. Maybe, like you said, maybe prerequisites to learn it, but I don't know.
Blood bending is just water bending. It's just very advanced water bending. So what skills do you need to have before you can do blood bending?
Maybe a minimum amount, or a teacher possibly too. Although we've seen with metal build, at least in, I know we don't want to refer to Korra, but if we refer to Korra, not everybody could learn to metal bend. Although it seems like every fire person could learn to lightning bend.
Zuko never does, unless he did it by Korra. I don't know.
Huh. Yeah, he learned to redirect, but I don't think we ever saw him use lightning.
Not in the original series, no.
Huh. Interesting.
All right, so the next thing I was looking at was crafting with bending. So this would be using a technical skill with a bending skill. So you see the Earth Nation has advanced earthworks. The Northern Water Tribe is an entire city made out of ice. And the Fire Nation has the most advanced metalwork in the original series. By far the most advanced metalwork. They're also the only ones we see utilizing, except for the Mechanist, they're the only ones we see utilizing steam engines, internal combustion engines. Yeah. How exactly does that work? I don't know, but it's something we'd need to make up rules for. And I do have down here regular martial arts would exist, but has no bending applications. Example of that again would be Tai Li. And then my last section here, and we'll probably wrap this up. Let's see how much time we're down. Yeah, we're at the 20-minute mark.
About 20 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, this one's going a little long.
That's fun.
The power for bending, it would be an attribute. I covered a lot of this already. I'd put an upper limit of 4D on the bending attribute at character creation. I would not put an upper limit on the bending attribute for advancement during play. So there's an upper limit on attributes of 4D for humans. You can surpass that, but it's not easy to do. And we're not going to get into the nitty-gritty there. But I would remove that restriction of having to get past that with bending, because we see a lot of people, especially the older benders, who've been doing this, who are considered Boomy and Ozai and Iroh and Paku. All of these characters can bring a lot more to the table than most benders can. Toph is a master at the age of, what is she, 11 in the series? Almost 12, something like that.
Something.
She is a master. She defeats other earthbenders who are full-grown adults and been doing this for a while, and some of the best combatants around. The first time we see her, she's the championship earthbender for her area.
It's equivalent of a middle school wrestler, beating The Rock.
Yeah.
Like what we're putting.
The Boulder.
The Boulder.
The Boulder, as incredibly well played by Mankind there. I can't remember his name. Cactus Jack, Mankind, Dude Love. Oh, anyway. It's kind of upsetting, but my mind's not focused on wrestling right now. It's on these few Avatar rules we need to get through. So all the attribute advancement restrictions apply except for the final one. The regular, just improving yourself a little bit by +1, all of those apply. So you need to spend time. It's 1 week per number before the D. So if you've got 4D in it and you want to get to 4D +1, you have to spend a month practicing before you can improve it. Requires 10 times the D to improve. So again, it's 40 character points to get from 4D to 4D +1. It's not cheap, it's not easy to improve, so that should keep it in check, and at the same time allows the great masters we see in Avatar: The Last Airbender, including Toph, who Toph does not have a lot of other skills, honestly. Besides Khan, which I think she might also be her, like the one skill she also put points into, but she's not a starting character. So, yeah. Anything you want to add?
I like cheese.
Okay. It's not cabbages, it's cheese.
My cabbages were destroyed by a random air bison. Okay, I do have to say one final thing.
Please do.
I haven't watched the show yet. And I don't know if I'll like it or not when it comes to the live action. But I still love that they got the voice actor to come back to play the cabbage guy.
There you go. All right. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed our take on how we would work Avatar or create an Avatar D6 system. And today we're going to be talking about Avatar: The Last Airbender. And what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it. But more than that, Beas and I last week, we came up with the basics for how to run the rule set for how to run Avatar in a homebrew for D6. So the question I'm starting us out with today, for all you Blam truckers out there, all you geekitudes keeping things positive and cool and what you love about all this geek stuff, a refuge for the loveliness of geekitude.
I am quite
question.
lovely.
You are, especially that shirt.
Thank you.
What happened to your jacket? You're not a lieutenant today?
No, not today. I was demoted to crewman.
No Grogu on your shoulder?
No Grogu on my shoulder.
For you Blam truckers out there who've been watching for a while, notice I pronounced it correctly that time with no double take. Grogu. That's right, folks. Grogu. Yes, I practiced this. Sadly. Okay, question I wanted to start off with. I'm not getting caught flat-footed again. I might
Fair
if
enough.
we do the subscribe song. Remember the subscribe song? Subscribe, 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 subscribe. Got it right that time. Question I want to start off with is a question for Beas, and I'm sure he'll turn around and ask it to me in a minute. If you were, as a GM, if you were going to set up a game in the world of Avatar, what time period would you set it up with, and what part of the world would it be in? Because the reason why I ask is because depending on the time period, you may not have access to air bisons, you may not have access to blimps, you may not have access to steam-powered vehicles, or only the Fire Nation does. And the only way to do fast travel would be magical animals that aren't magical in the, but different animals that we don't have here in the real world. Because here in the real world, we don't have magical animals.
What are you talking about? There's a unicorn that lives back in my basement. But
What you call my cat is your business.
so I would set it. I'm gonna have to say post Korra, maybe like
Wow.
100 years after Korra,
Wow.
or maybe not even 100. And this is my reasoning.
I mean, you're talking about making things wide open.
Yes, and
All right.
this is my reason why.
Okay.
One, I don't mind if they happen to do another series which overwrites stuff I played with.
Yeah.
Because it didn't exist at the time. But
We
I
did that a
don't-
lot with Star Wars over the years.
exactly, and that's kind of what I was thinking. But if you do it a bit in the past, it means that I know this sounds stupid, but at the very least, if I do it in the future, it can be canon in my head. Even if they come out with something in the future, then it's just alternate. If I do it in the past, thinking that this leads to the future, and they come out with some piece of lore, it just bothers me to know that it completely erased what I did. I don't mind it erasing it if I thought of it first, but I do mind it erasing it if it's something that they're like, well, this happened in the distant past. You know. I mean, but heck, they even changed some stuff in Korra from Avatar, but I won't go there. We don't talk about Korra. We don't talk about Korra. No, no, no.
So you're saying we should call Korra Voldemort? She who must not be named?
It's not... I'm just not as big a fan of the character. I like some of the characters in that show. And story-wise, I just didn't get into it as much as Avatar. But I have watched it, and I would set something post-Korra, maybe to a more, like... in a more like modern to us setting. Korra is kind of like a blend of the 1920s as well as everything
1800s.
from it's like they've got like regular cars and stuff, but if you look at Republic City, it's almost like a 1920s New York. There's weird stuff and differences going on because again, there were motorized vehicles already. They were steam-powered or whatever, but there were motorized vehicles and stuff leading into it, including not personal, like regular people using it, but at least individual military vehicles that could be driven across, as we saw when Azula, May, and Ty Lee were chasing after, the Aang gang because Appa needed a good grooming brush. But...
shedding season for poor Alpha.
Indeed.
So, I have a problem with internal combustion engines in most historical fiction or fantasy worlds. I live in a world, and in the geek culture, I am in a unique place I don't think very many other people are in, where I have a solid understanding of historical events, historical fiction, and the advancement of technology, and how that all came about, as well as my love for the rest of the geekitude, and philosophy, and theology, and science in general, and especially physics. Anyway, the internal combustion engine could have been invented thousands of years ago, I mean, we're talking BC time periods here. 1,000 years before Christ, the internal combustion engine could have been invented. The first attempts at it were created then. We knew that because the first internal combustion engines were all steam engines, and some of them were external combustion engines, which is a whole nother thing. But they needed to do was put steam in a metal ball, put it on a stick with a pipe coming out of it with a little bit of a curve to it, and then heat that metal ball. That's an external combustion engine, and the heat from that will in turn make the ball spin. As you fill it up with water, as you heat the water turns to steam and the ball turns. First engine. And then if it's on a shaft, on a stick, then as that stick turns, you can put a gear on it and turn something. But external combustion engines are incredibly inefficient and simply not worth the cost. They would not become worth the cost. They would not be until England, the country of England in real life, ran out of wood to cut down to use for heating homes and moved to coal, and got to the point where they got so far down into their coal mines. So this is quite a ways in, so far deep into their coal mines that they had enough excess coal left over for an inefficient way to run a pump to get the water out of the coal mine so they could dig down deeper. The first combustion engines that were ever used in any quantity for anything in human history were in England, and under those circumstances, taking the combustion engine from being incredibly inefficient to efficient enough to actually be used in industry or for locomotion is a very particular series of events that did not happen anywhere else in the world because the circumstances weren't right to put in that much effort to create one. Pet peeve. It's one of the reasons why I'm annoyed by that. Whenever I see it, not just in Avatar, I usually just put that aside and ignore it and enjoy the story, and I can do that. But there you go. Drives me up a wall. And then the advancements they make into Korra are just like, that wouldn't happen. But I let it go. It's fantasy. I get it. Not everybody needs to understand everything. It's okay. Would you like to know where I would set my campaign?
Yes, please.
I would set it during the 100-Year War, during the War of the Fire Nation against the other three nations.
That's great. I mean, it means that you're limited to just the three basic bending: fire bending, air bending, or not air bending, fire bending, water bending, and earth bending.
Yep.
Unless
depends on when we set it, actually. If we set it before Ozai, not Ozai. Sozin. I knew it started with an S. If we set it before Sozin's attack on the airbenders, we could even have some airbender survivors from that attack.
Mm-hmm. And you still could have it afterwards, but I would make it that I would say you can't have this, then I would wait for one of my players to come up to me.
And make
we all
the
know
argument.
Who would probably be. But I think Boo Man would probably make the argument if it was in our current group of friends that would play. But I would wait for them to make the argument, and I would have them write up I'd be like, you would need to write up a really good story in order for me to say yes to it.
GM's prerogative. Yeah. And he would. He can write one heck of a story.
Okay.
So I would set it then because that time period, despite the fact that we know a great deal about it, we don't know about almost any of the events during that time period. We also can assume that the Fire Nation did not win every single battle, so it gives our players a chance to be heroes and stop the Fire Nation's advance, because if they won every single battle, it wouldn't take them 100 years to conquer the world.
The fact that they still only had some colonies they had colonies in the Earth Nation, but they hadn't taken it over by that point because the Earth Nation was able to hold them back for so long. And
yeah.
And they would do raids to the Southern Water Tribe, not really the Northern Water Tribe because it was too powerful, but they would
And
do
too far
raids.
away.
Yeah, they would do raids to the Southern Water Tribe, but they never established any sort of. It seems like they never established any sort of outposts or anything there. They would just hit it with raids.
I think Ozai's goal and Sozin's goal, to a certain degree, was eliminating the Southern Water Tribe's waterbenders.
Yeah, well, and that's what they did.
Yeah.
They kept kidnapping them, and they were there, and that's pretty much the reason why Katara's mom was killed, was because Katara and Sokka's mom was killed because she said she was the waterbender, because they had heard that there was another waterbender in the Southern Tribe, which, because Katara was the only waterbender, because as we saw earlier in the series, they had kept just raiding and kidnapping them and bringing them to their prisons and such.
Mm-hmm. But that was still the generation before the
That
last.
That was pretty much Grand's generation, and Grand
was the
was
last
from
of the
Northern.
raids on the. Yeah.
Yeah,
That was
she
the
was
last
from
of the
the
raids on the Southern Water Tribe. Was
Right, because-
Grand's generation.
Until the raid when Katara was a little girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when it was that one of those last raids that we see, what's her name, who we meet later in
Bloodbender?
the series and teaches the bloodbending. What?
Yeah, I said the Bloodbender.
Yeah. They're the ones who actually capture the steamboat from the Fire Tribe.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, Fire Nation. So yeah, I think it would be a great time period. There's 100 years to play with. We have a villain. It's called the Fire Nation. So I don't have to come up with, new storylines. I mean, I do, but everybody knows the setting enough that if you've seen the first series, then Avatar: The Last Airbender, not The Legend of Korra, or even read any of the comics, then you know the setting well enough. It's a great time to play in. People can still get the opportunity to be heroes, and even though eventually down the line they're going to lose, right now they're holding the Fire Nation in check.
Realistically, yeah, eventually down the line, but I mean, Ba Sing Se falls 3 months before it's retaken. So I mean,
yeah, Ba Sing Se. You also,
Omashu.
depending on how much you want to get it into the actual, how close you want to get to Avatar, to Aang's time period, you have the Siege of Ba Sing Se, which was done when, what's his name?
Iroh?
It wasn't that long ago, because Zuko was a child. Zuko and Azula were...
Right. It was when Iroh was more middle-aged or whatever.
Well, it was 6 to 8 years before the start of Avatar: The Last Airbender, because Zuko is 16 during Avatar: The Last Airbender at the start of it, and he was probably around 10 during the flashbacks for the Siege of Ba Sing Se, when his uncle's doing the Siege of Ba Sing Se. So that would be very late in the 100 Years' War. I probably wouldn't do that, but yeah, I'd have offenses back and forth. I'd probably set it on the western continent of the western side of the Earth Nation continent, the main continent there, which is closest to the Fire Nation, and I'd let my players make whatever they wanted to make. There's no Avatar, so we don't have to worry about that. And Aang's frozen in a block of ice somewhere. It's between the southern air temple and the Southern Water Tribe. So yeah, you could make whatever you wanted to make. If we do it early enough, you could even make an airbender. Yeah. Maybe we don't even have mechanical boats yet, steam-powered boats yet. I don't know. Something to think about.
I like it.
Yeah. So, we're at 16 minutes here?
Yep.
Got anything you want to add? Anything you want to bring up about the series?
No, just regarding the series, if you have not watched Avatar, I know we may have given away little things here and there, but come on, the show's old enough. You probably have gotten some of this just from random stuff in your Facebook feed or Instagram feed or whatever kids are using these days. Your WhatsApp feed? I don't know. But
WhatsApp? What's that?
Why, when I was your age, we didn't even have an internet. Just ARPANET. Nobody knew about that.
But yeah, I'd highly recommend watching the original Nickelodeon cartoon Avatar: The Last Airbender. I myself am going to give the live action a shot. Hey, maybe next week you can ask me how I'm liking it.
There we go.
But yeah, it's a very good series. Very, very well written. It really felt like it was planned out.
Yeah.
It has a fairly... The story continuity within the series is better than a lot of other series out there. And even though
live action shows.
Yep, and even though it was written for kids, as an adult, it is still a fun show to watch. But the nice thing is
a good story.
You can watch it with your kids, and there's going to be stuff you'll get, and there's going to be stuff that, I mean, you're going to get everything for the most part, but like your kids are going to be able to follow it because it's a show written for them. But as an adult, you might appreciate more of the political intrigue, the war stuff, and just the good storytelling. So I highly, highly, highly recommend. And for those of you who did watch it, there are comics out there which answers the question left at the end of the series, which they joke about during the first episode of Korra. What happened to Zuko's mother? Which
she got really drunk. No.
But I do recommend that the collection of, it's called The Search. I highly recommend it if you were a fan of Avatar, just to get the answer to that. It was fairly well written. It's not quite at the same tier as the show, but it is a solid comic book, and it's a good continuation, so I highly recommend.
So for all you Blam truckers out there, down in the comments below, let us know when would you set your game? If you were running a Avatar: The Last Airbender role-playing game, when would you set it and why? And we'll read those comments and maybe respond to them on the air, and maybe not. I don't know. Haven't decided yet. But we'd love to hear what you have to say. I have ideas for everything. Even fandoms I don't particularly like, I have pitches for them. How do
you keep from breaking continuity if you're not a big fan of the series, so that you know the continuity?
Because I don't like the series doesn't mean I don't have to know everything about the series.
Fair enough.
Because I probably know more about Doctor Who than you do at this point.
That wouldn't be very hard. I don't know much about the older stuff.
Well,
and I didn't really pay much attention post Capaldi.
If I was going to write a season of the Doctor, it would feature Omega. Do you know who Omega is?
No, actually.
No. Omega is one of the 3 creators of the Time Lords. The president guy from the old series. A third one who is hinted it might be the Doctor at various times, but is also said not to be the Doctor at various times, and then after that is hinted at that it might be the Doctor at various times. Continuity is kind of rough in Doctor Who.
Yep.
And then Omega.
And they personally don't care.
No. A lot of the writers and creators are just trying to tell interesting stories. And I can appreciate that. Continuity is generally second to stories in most productions. Omega was the third guy. He never actually became a Time Lord. He might be more powerful than the Time Lords. He had to be exiled to a separate dimension, where he is all but all powerful in that separate dimension. But he created a lot of the technology that would allow the Time Lords to travel through time, manipulate time, the regeneration technology, all of that. The regeneration, despite what is currently being said about their regeneration comes from the genetics they studied from an alien species, which is the current understanding of it. The original, or the closest to original understanding of the Time Lord's regeneration goes back to the fact that they are beings that are ensconced in time itself, and that they have, I can't remember the name of the devices, but they have some of their mystic artifacts that aren't mystic, they're advanced science. Some of those mystic artifacts, one of them it's called like the Matrix or the Core or something. I forget the exact name. It's probably the Matrix of blah blah blah, the Matrix of Omega or whatever.
The Matrix of Leadership?
No, that's the Transformers. That is what allows them. That's why they only get 12 regenerations, because that's how many their technology allows them. It's not that they couldn't have more, but that's the number they set. It's why the Doctor was given another 12, because the Time Lords have the capacity to give more regenerations through their technology and their manipulation of time itself and the rest of the fabric of the universe. And I don't watch Doctor Who.
Fair enough.
So, we're 5 minutes in, and what we were going to talk about, which we could talk about, is City of Heroes. So, tonight we already did one recording on City of Heroes, on the new changes that have come down with the patch this week. And I thought it'd be fun to actually do another sessions about what we love and what we hate, or mostly what we love, because we don't like to focus on what we hate. But what we love about City of Heroes. So, like favorite classes, favorite missions, favorite story arcs, if you have a favorite story arc, which I don't know if you do abuse.
For
Favorite
the most
builds?
part. So when it comes to story arcs, I haven't played much through except for the initial stuff, other
Yeah.
than the things that we run together.
Okay.
For me, I look at City Heroes the same way I did WoW and, to a smaller degree, EverQuest. I look at it as a graphical interface to chat with people. It's
So
a
you're saying
social
it's a chat box with a video game attached to it?
Yes.
That's how we used to describe EverQuest 25 years ago.
And I am not as, what's the word I'm looking for?
Flatulent?
No, definitely not that.
Defenestrate?
No, I don't think so.
Demonstrative?
No.
I'm glad we're in two different states, because he would smack me at this point.
Tempted to drive. I'm not as social as I used to be. Because it used to be that in EverQuest and such, I would talk to people, make friends. I did the same in WoW when I first started playing it. And I would try to make friends online. Some of my close friends who I talk to this day.
Our Texan friends.
Yes.
Texan Friend 1 and Texan Friend 2.
And Texan Friend 3.
3.
For me.
Oh, yeah, 3.
Yeah.
I'm not friends with Texas Friend 3. I've only met him once or twice.
Fair enough.
I'm not saying I don't like the guy or girl. I've only met them once or twice. I can't really say, oh, we're the best of friends. We're not. We've met each other. He seems cool, or she.
Yeah.
I haven't met them in real life.
I think we might be talking about two different people, but yes. But anyways, we'll talk about it later.
I just don't want to assume genders.
Fair enough. But
because Texas Friend 1 is the one who came up here and visited.
Yes. Yeah.
Texas Friend 2 is the one that me and him used to blow money in Star Wars: The Old Republic together.
Yes.
Ridiculous amounts in his case, and for me, ridiculous amounts. But I was spending maybe a 20th as much as he was. And after you could buy these in-game purchases in Star Wars: The Old Republic, and it was random stuff. And none of it, in fact, really affected gameplay. It was just like cosmetic stuff. And after about the 5th one I bought, I'm like, why am I spending my money on this? I don't use any of it. And it was to keep up with Texas Friend 2.
Yep. And I'm certain EA BioWare were very, very happy for your purchases.
I think I dropped a
both of
total
you.
of $20, all said and done.
Oh, you were definitely not keeping up with him.
Not even close. He kept up for about a night, and then the wisdom in the back of my head kicked in. It's like, was this worth $20? No. At the time, $20 was an hour's worth of work, and I'm like, maybe it was worth an hour's worth of work. But I had fun, so.
Yeah. I mean, look, to all of our trucker friends out there, as long as you can afford it, as much as microtransactions suck, if it's happy and you know what you're spending your money on,
Clap your hands.
If you have the money to spend, it's your money.
Sorry.
Don't worry about it. But just don't fall into the
Be responsible.
hole that
like
some
gambling.
people. Yeah. Be responsible. Don't be like the person who blows $10,000 on Raid Shadow Legends and can't afford to make their car payment or mortgage payment or rent payment or eat.
Take care. Real life comes first.
And that's actually a rule that pretty much every game we've played in, every guild we've been in, whether we're running it, whether we're officers in it, or whether we are just regular people, real life comes first.
That's a Beas original phrase right there.
I've heard it from other people who didn't get it from you, but yes.
Well, let me tell you where that originated. Playing EverQuest with Jay, which is just the first initial for their name, not their name. Our friend with the J, first initial. On your account, I was in your room in college, and he was playing EverQuest on your account, because we all started playing on your account, on your computer. And he was sitting there. Was it him? It may not have been him, but it was one of the, 5 of us that were playing off your account?
I had multiple J's playing off my account anyways.
Oh. In that case, we have managed to keep his anonymity. We would all end up getting our own accounts. It might have been our friend Stubby. But Stubby Quick Fingers. But anyway, whoever it was, I'm sitting there reading an X-Wing book, and as opposed to, or maybe I was actually doing school homework, I don't know, but they're sitting there playing the game, and they're going, I really got to go study for a test. I got a test tomorrow, or I got to go write a paper, or whatever it was. And I looked up from the book I was reading, and I'm like, my homework's done, man. I'll jump on the computer. You go play. Real life comes first. How much are you paying to go to college? Yeah, don't answer that. How much are you paying to play on Beas' account? Yeah, real life comes first. Go. So that was 1999. Anybody want to predate that? And then we started saying it on when we all had accounts shortly thereafter. Because we just tried
and they
it.
all surpassed me.
Yes, we did. They all surpassed me too because I couldn't stay with one character. Back then, anyway. I have to know how everything works. What was I saying? I started saying that to people online. You got a test, man. Real life comes first. You gotta get to work. Real life comes first. Go log off the game, and then it went through our guild at the time, and then our other guild when we went to the new server, and I don't know. I'm sure a lot of people came up with the same phrase, but 1999, I came up with that. I can claim it. I never heard anyone say it before that. I wasn't playing enough EverQuest at the time or any other online games at the time. Because I think my character got all the way up to level 5 before I'm like, I'm done with this. It's not fair to you playing on your account. It's not fair to me not having my own account. So yeah, I ended up getting my own computer and getting my own account. But yeah. Real life comes first, folks.
Real life comes first. Whether it be time or money, real life comes first.
Oh, yeah. So, what classes do you like to play in City of Heroes?
So far, out of the ones I've played, if I just want to kind of sit back and not be very responsible, Mastermind and Blaster are my favorite if I don't want to pay too much attention. If I'm really into it, I like playing my tanker, I like playing my brute. I'm starting to like my defender, but I haven't really done any grouping with it yet, so I don't know how that'll be in the end, but that's...
What kind of defender are you running? I forget.
For Defender, I am running Time Psychic.
Ooh, I've never played a time. Interesting. So, I've played just about everything. I've played every archetype. It would be easier to tell you the ones I don't like, which are the advanced archetypes. I just don't enjoy them. And so that's your Arachnos Soldier, your Arachnos Widow, the Warbringer, and the Lightbringer? Peacebringer?
Peacebringer. I've got one of those, but I couldn't get into it. But you need more of a group for them.
Okay. And Dominators. I'm not a big fan of Dominators. I like Controllers more than I like Dominators.
Even though we just talked about Dominators in one of the previous episodes.
Oh, I've played all of them. So, I know I don't like them. I've tried them. The reason I don't like Dominators is I just like blasters more for doing damage. I like the play style. Dominators are very effective at locking things down and then killing them. Blasters are just good at killing them. Yeah. I really like blaster play style. I really like ranged. I love ranged damage. Most RPGs, I have at least one ranged damage character maxed out, sometimes more, to the point where in Star Trek Online, I actually have a missile boat, just because missiles do the same amount of damage at range as they do close-up beam weapons and energy weapons. The closer you get, the more damage you do. So I actually have an entire build, a number of builds actually, that are based on missile boats, so I can stay at maximum range. I like my tanker a lot. I mean a lot. We should actually do a video on, like, one of the videos I suggested we do is on tactics, MMORPG tactics and City of Heroes, and where they apply and where they don't. But I like being the tanker. I like being a tanker in a group more than I like being a tanker solo, though I do enjoy solo tanking because it is the most mindless thing I think I've ever done in an MMO. I will just go into the instance, run up to the first group of villains, attack them, the mobs, attack them, and put my AoE attack on auto attack, and I'm done. I'm gonna alt-tab out and read a book, watch some TV show, give it about 5 minutes, alt-tab back, and clear up whoever I need to clear up, and move on to the next group. It is a quick and easy way to farm. It is a quick and easy way to get through, solo time. What I use that for mostly nowadays is when I'm doing chores around the house. Like, I did a load of laundry today while farming. I'm a stone tanker. They couldn't kill me if they tried. And they tried. I enjoy masterminds to some degree. Usually when I'm playing a support class like that, whether it's a controller or a mastermind, I'm more focused on the controlling part of it. Lately I've been working on a defender debuffer, a poison defender, because I'm on this new server Reunion. It's not new, but it's a low population server. It's new to me. And a lot of the groups I get into for endgame content didn't have enough debuffing skill to make the fights work well. Sometimes we couldn't even get through the end fights because we didn't have enough debuffers. So I built the debuffer. I'm good with the play style. I'm good at it. It's okay. I don't love it. I wouldn't be playing this if it wasn't needed, but I do like to feel needed when I'm doing MMOs. I mean, playing an MMO solo is fine, but one of the reasons you play one is to do stuff with other people. I know that quest you're doing. You're disguised as a Hellion right now.
Yep.
When I look like this, I'm looking at our shared screen. So those are the classes I like right now. I'm playing a stone tanker for the most part, and I've got a water stone rad tanker because rad is the best AoE attack set, secondary for tankers. Almost every single target attack with the contamination process. I don't know what it's called. I know what it's called. I can't think of it right now. But with contamination, which is one of the aspects of how the game plays for radiation melee, with contamination, my single target attacks become AoE attacks, which in turn helps me hold aggro. In City of Heroes, it works that every time you hit something as a tanker, it's the equivalent of a taunt, putting you at the top of the aggro list. So the more hits you can get in, the more targets you can get in, the more mobs you can keep on yourself. I hope that made sense.
Similar, slightly different with the Brute as well.
Yes. Almost exactly the same. So my goal in making my tank wasn't to make it the highest damage, but to give it the most number of hits. So I've got 2 auras running, one from radiation, one from stone. 2 damage auras running. They're both fully kitted out. I've got an AoE attack and 3 individual attacks and 1 ranged attack. Not including all the attacks I bought from the pay-to-win vendor, which is now called the start vendor, so that if everything's on cooldown or I'm getting slowed, I can still get out a number of attacks to keep my aggro at the top, so I don't lose aggro. Because I'm a tank, baby.
Because I'm a tanker, baby.
So why don't you play with me? Everybody!
And
so
on my screen, you can see the start vendor.
Yeah.
In all of her glory.
All right. So that puts us at about 20 minutes. Anything you want to add in? Any closing thoughts for all of our Blam Blam truckers out there in Blam Blam Trucker Land?
My main closing thoughts will be thank you again for your watching us. Beas and I really do appreciate it.
Yeah.
Even if I do have slight identity issues in knowing whether or not I am Beas on any given moment. But
it's only happened 3-4 times so far.
I know, right? But please, like, share, subscribe if you enjoy our content. I used to always be annoyed when content creators said stuff like that, but I understand, especially for us. We're just trying to grow, have ourselves out there. If you don't like us, that's fine. Heck,
subscribe anyway. No.
throw a dislike. It still gives us engagement. And you know what? If you don't like it, put in a comment in there.
Tell us getting engagement. I thought you were already married.
Well,
I mean, I could use a little engagement, but that's a whole other story.
But yeah, like, share, subscribe, interact with us. I do pay attention to comments. It might take me a little bit longer, but even some of the stuff we did tonight was a direct response to a comment that was left, which is cool because this is the first time I can say that. We're doing this, yes, because we're 2 friends who like to hang out, but we're also doing this for you guys. And the more engagement, the more people that watch, the more we're going to possibly be able to do. And we want to be able to do that. Maybe hire someone who's much better at editing than I am.
A bedditor?
A bedditor. And you know what? Maybe I'll put myself in the middle of the screen again. But yeah, someone who's better at editing than I am, so that we can actually have better content. We can, move up the ranks of YouTube, and also just in general, so our stuff looks better.
Who can take the sunshine right out of your red eyes? The bedditor can. The bedditor can. The bedditor can, and he mixes it with love, with Photoshop.
Probably more Adobe Premiere, but
with Adobe Premiere. Ride round, baby, ride round like a record, baby. Blam, blam, trucker record. How you guys doing out there in Blam, blam, trucker land? I'm good, Beas. I probably shouldn't block the mic when I do that. Hi, I'm Beas. Who are you?
I'm Buse.
Are you
and
sure?
You know what? I am sure. And you know
All
what,
right.
Bees?
What?
I am ready to rumble! So, what's our topic for this episode, Bees?
The WWE this week in the WWE.
Okay. So, as we briefly talked about before, I'm not as big of a... Okay.
What do you think of the WWE?
I have
It
not
doesn't matter what you think! Finally, The Rock has come back to SmackDown!
Oh, yeah. I remember. Back in the day, I had a couple of The Rock's theme songs, I guess, uh, through various means, and yeah, I can.
Don't say Napster. No one needs to know that Napster actually happened,
I
despite the
promise you.
lawsuit.
I promise you, I never got it from Napster,
It was LimeWire. Anyway.
and LimeWire didn't. LimeWire didn't exist at the time, or at least I didn't know it existed. At least at the time, and I would never, on a public station, claim to have done anything illegal that may or may not be past the statute of limitations.
It wasn't illegal yet. It would become so, though.
It was questionable.
Yeah. There were no rulings on it yet. How's that?
There you go. Oh man, I'm old. But
it just means you know what's going on, or at least you were around when stuff did go on.
But The Rock. That was my first. That was my first introduction to The Rock. I knew nothing. Didn't know much about wrestling at the time. It was before Scorpion King had come out. Not Scorpion King. Well, before Scorpion King had come out, but it was before
Mummy Returns.
Mummy 2. Yep, Mummy Returns to come out.
And he
which
brought
was
bagel
his.
lights.
Which was his kind of introduction into movie making, and yeah, all I remember is that song, and because I've been requested to, and hopefully we don't get demonetized or copyright struck, but all right, you guys will have to forgive me. I don't have all of the words memorized, but I'll give it a shot.
Okay. You want me to intro you in?
Go for it.
And in this corner, weighing I don't know how many pounds, the one, the beautiful Beas.
Finally, The Rock has come back, laying down the smack on your funky crack, candy-coated ass, into the square circle, with the great one, the most electrifying moves. Don't touch the station. Children and their children, they all chant with the millions upon millions of Rock fans. Get ready for the square dance. Here's your chance for a candy-ass whooping from the people's champ. Do you smell what The Rock is cooking?
Well done. Well done.
Thank you.
So The Rock has come back to the WWE. I did not become a WWE wrestling fan until I was over 30 years old. I really missed out on, well, around the time I was 30 years old. It was the match that actually got me. My buddy Tuna, he's like, you got to come over. He was a big wrestling fan. He was like, you got to come over. Well, I'm getting WrestleMania on the pay-per-view. You got to come over. I said, I don't like wrestling. He's like, well, afterwards, we're going to play video games on our PS3. I said, I'll come over for that. Let me know when WrestleMania is over. So he goes, no, you got to come over for the whole thing, or don't bother coming over. I'm like, I'll just skip this one then. I'd watched wrestling as a kid, and I could tell it was staged. You'll notice I don't use the F word. The F word is fake. It is not fake. It is staged. Those men are real athletes. Those women are real athletes. So, yeah. I could tell it was staged. I didn't understand why people got so excited about it. And then I went and saw WrestleMania. It was the match where, I don't remember, it was WrestleMania 30-something. 32, I think, where Undertaker versus Shawn Michaels career match. It wasn't the first one, it was the second one, the very next year. The first year that Undertaker repeated during the streak. So it was a streak against a retirement match for HBK. And to his credit, HBK stayed retired for a very long time. Spoiler, HBK loses, a heartbreak kid. And the rest of WrestleMania, fine, whatever. I watched it. It was okay. The pop John Cena got was impressive. But that's the crowd reaction John Cena got was impressive. But I didn't know who the hell John Cena was. Um, then I didn't know then who this guy was. I'm like, that guy looks like Marky Mark. I didn't even call him Mark Wahlberg. That guy looks like Marky Mark. Turns out they're cousins.
I did not know that. Learn
Yeah,
something new every day.
yeah. So you got Donnie Wahlberg, Mark Wahlberg, and John Cena, all from south of Boston. You can go to Wahlburgers and not see any of them. Anyway, that match, the last match of WrestleMania, got me hooked. As an intellectual, I said that this is the current evolution of American melodrama. I really think American melodrama has been brought to one of its highest pinnacles in the world of the wrestling and soap operas. And if you're a fan of melodrama, you can really see it in wrestling. But over the years, wrestling has had its peaks and its valleys, and it's coming out of a very big valley. That after the Attitude Era, you had some big spikes with different storylines because there's a lot of storylines in WWE, and now the whole Cody Rhodes, when he left, he was a mid-card performer when he left the WWE. Now he's back as top of the heat, the biggest baby face in the world of wrestling right now. And amazing story over the last 2 years of Cody's return to the WWE from the AEW and helping create AEW, and he became a huge name. He was a big name, being the son of Dusty Rhodes and the brother of Dustin Rhodes, aka Gold Dust. So he was already a name. He was a legacy, and he came back, and they've just done amazing storytelling with him over the years. I'm catching it afterwards, as I don't have linear cable of any sort anymore, or an antenna right now. I'm thinking about getting one, a digital antenna, but the storyline has just been fantastic. He came back to the WWE. He earned a title shot at the WWE Championship at WrestleMania last year. Took his shot, beat the current champion, the current longest running champion, Roman Reigns. He beat him, but then there was a disqualification event that happened before he successfully pinned him when he was going for the pin, or around the time he was going for the pin, there was interference that called the match. So even though if there hadn't been interference, he probably would have won the match, he did not win the match. So he lost. This is his big chance. The whole crowd was building for an entire year to this WrestleMania event, and he lost. Because he lost, he doesn't automatically get a rematch. He had to earn that rematch, which he has done over the last year, winning the Royal Rumble back in February. This is actually February still. So winning the Royal Rumble, he was about to announce he was going after the WWE Undisputed title again, to go after Roman Reigns again, who still holds it, when The Rock came back. Now, this goes into the behind the scenes, because as WWE is telling the best storytelling it's been telling in probably the last 10 years, probably since 2013, even better than some of the stuff from 2013, 2014, 2012, 2011. There was an amazing Randy Orton storyline in 2011. Anyway, and then the whole Monsters bit with the Big Show and Mark Henry. Anyway, this is probably the best story we've seen in a long, long time. But outside of the WWE, things are getting bad. We found out Vince McMahon has had sexual allegations, which he denies, but he stepped down, and they've been cast against. These allegations are being brought against him in court, and some of the text messages he has sent to this woman who is making these allegations against him seem to verify her story. Now, I'm not going to make a judgment until we actually get into court and find out the truth to the best of our ability, but it does not look good for Mr. Vince McMahon. It looks like he's been a very horrible person for a long time. These are not good allegations, and I hope he's innocent. I hope no one would do these things, but it's bad. And while that is going on, to deal with that, the WWE, he's left the board. Vince McMahon is out, The company that owns the WWE, TKO, has came to Dwayne Johnson, and I'm not saying they weren't already in talks or that this was in response to it, but they came to The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, and offered him a position on the board, which he accepted. So now, as The Rock's movie career is not doing particularly well right now, anybody else see Black Adam? Anybody else go to the theater to see Black Adam? I did not regret seeing Black Adam. I did not regret going to the theater to see it. I thought it was a good film. I didn't think it was a great film. I'm not going to go into what I didn't like about it. I will say this: the performance that Dr.
Timothy
Fate
Dalton?
gave. Yes. Wow. Amazing performance. Everybody else was good in it too. Not a bad movie, worth watching. I can go into it quite a bit, but that's not the point of this. The movie lost money. It made $400 million gross and almost $400 million gross, and that wasn't enough to pay for the production and the advertising. So, Rock had a big flop with Black Adam. That was his biggest movie of, last year, the year before?
And it had been building up for years for him playing Black Adam. So.
Oh, yeah. So this was a big hit to his career. He's had a few other hits against his career. Hopefully he'll turn it around. I like good movies. I like movies I like to talk about on here with Beas and you guys out there in Blam Blam Truckerland. But his career has stalled somewhat in Hollywood, at least for now. So he's spending time with the WWE. So he comes back and Cody Rhodes' story gets interrupted. Instead of facing off with Roman Reigns, Cody actually says in the ring, I'm going to take everything from you, Roman, but not at WrestleMania. And then Rock comes into the ring. So they set us up for a Rock fight. And the internet wanted nothing to do with it. All you Blam Blam truckers out there that like the WWE, you wanted nothing to do with it. And Finish the Story trended everywhere. And Cody ruled, we want Cody. And people just chanted and cheered and booed The Rock. For the first time since he was a heel 20 years ago, The Rock is getting booed.
Oof.
Oh, yeah. Serious boos. And he took that and played right into being a heel with it, right into being the bad guy. Started calling people who like Cody crybabies. Went back to being the full heel persona and actually just gave one of the worst promos I've ever seen him give this week on, I don't remember if it was Raw or SmackDown. He starts calling Cody a crybaby and, he lost last year, so he thinks he deserves another shot when he's already acknowledged Cody won the Royal Rumble. You win the Royal Rumble, you get the challenge at WrestleMania for one of the titles. Your choice of title. That's the rule. That's been the rule since I've been watching it. It's been the rule even longer than I've been watching it. Wasn't always the rule, but it has been the rule for well over 10, 15 years. 20 maybe. You win the Royal Rumble, you get to pick your, not opponent, which belt you're going to go after for WrestleMania. So the crowd went crazy and wanted nothing to do with this. The Rock started getting booed. The Rock started getting booed. It was phenomenal. And they did, everybody, all the commentators I was listening to, especially Jim Cornette, shout out to Jim Cornette, probably the greatest commentator in my opinion. The only guy to run a successful small wrestling business, which is still going apparently, OVW. He trained his business, OVW, trained some of the greatest. He's not still associated with OVW as far as I know, but when he did it, he turned it into one of the greatest small business in the McMahon era, in the WWE era. Without a huge influx of cash, he built it from the ground up, him and Danny. Anyway, shout out to Jim Cornette. He couldn't see a way out of this unless The Rock went heel. And everybody knows The Rock's not going heel. What's his name from Moana? What was the character he played in Moana?
Maui.
Maui from Moana is not going heel. Maui went heel, baby. Maui went heel. If you smell what The Rock is cooking. And it was perfect. It was just great. This past promo was not great. It was kind of stupid. I've rarely ever seen The Rock give a stupid promo. The promo is when they go out there and talk about the show. It's their acting segment of the show. It was just the whole idea that Cody didn't earn this by winning the Royal Rumble is just stupid. Whoever wrote that for him, or if he wrote it himself, that move there, Rock. You're not going to gain any fans by telling the fans something that isn't true. But besides that, this has been solid. This whole storyline has been solid. It's a good build. Hopefully they'll be able to pull it off and finish it well. But if you're not a wrestling fan, but you used to be, now's the time to come back. This is the time to see the good stuff. Sadly, it's happening while all this other stuff is happening with Vince McMahon and John Laurinaitis. So we'll see what happens with that. Other sexual allegations have come up that were from the past, have started to resurface in light of the current ones. There's been some bad people in the wrestling business. There's at least allegations of it. Some of it has been proven over the years. Some of it has not. But, wow. If you can look past that and know that these people aren't involved in the company anymore, this is a very entertaining story. Cody finally winning the title his father never could. It's good. It's really well done. I'm impressed with these guys. So
Very cool.
yeah.
All right, maybe I'll give it a shot.
Well, start watching the clips on YouTube. Check them out. Check out Rock's promo this week on SmackDown or whatever it was. With the Cody Cry. Just look up Cody Crybabies and see what comes up.
Will do. Will do.
All right. That's it for us. All you Blam Blam truckers out there in Blam Blam Trucker Land. I hope you keep on trucking. If anybody knows David Zaslav or somebody from the WB who wouldn't mind hearing a pitch for some DC movies, maybe somebody over at Sony, I can pitch just about anything. I'd love to work on some movies for you people. Views? Or maybe over here. I don't know where it's going to put us.
Yeah, me neither. But either way, see
My
you, truckers.
monitor is here. That's why I'm looking this way.
My monitor is right there, right behind the camera, right behind the light, not behind the other light, but I got a camera up there too I can switch to.
You can tell who's better at the physical side of this, at the technical side of this.
Well, you just need practice and more equipment. We'll see you, truckers.